Hello and welcome. Today we embark on an intellectual journey into one of the most enduring and contested ideas in human thought, equality. Across centuries, equality has inspired revolutions, shaped political ideologies, and framed debates on justice and fairness, and yet it remains profoundly complex, with philosophers disagreeing not only on its implications, but even on its fundamental meaning. What does it mean to be equal? Does equality mean treating everyone the same, or does it mean recognizing and addressing our differences? And how do we reconcile equality with freedom, power, and justice? To answer these questions, we'll delve into the works of foundational thinkers, explore critiques from Nietzsche and Foucault, and examine contemporary extensions like the capabilities approach, intersectionality, and ecological justice. Together, these perspectives will help us grasp the depth and richness of the philosophical debate on equality. Let's begin by travelling back to the early modern period, where philosophers like Hobbes, Locke, and Rousseau laid the groundwork for our understanding of equality. In Leviathan, published in 1651, Thomas Hobbes paints a grim picture of equality in the state of nature. He observes, "Nature hath made man so equal in the faculties of body and mind, as that the weakest has strength enough to kill the strongest." For Hobbes, equality is a double-edged sword. While it ensures that no one person is inherently superior to another, it also breeds competition, insecurity, and violence. Hobbes argued that equality in the state of nature leads to a war of all against all, making life nasty, brutish, and short. His solution? A social contract where individuals surrender certain freedoms to a sovereign authority to maintain peace. For Hobbes, equality is not an ethical principle, but a practical fact that requires control. John Locke, in his second Treatise of Government, published in 1689, offers a more optimistic view. He writes, "All men are naturally in a state of perfect freedom and equality." Locke grounds equality in natural law, asserting that humans, as creations of God, are equal in their right to life, liberty, and property. Unlike Hobbes, Locke sees equality as the foundation of moral obligations and legitimate governments. Yet Locke justifies economic inequality through his labour theory of property. He argues that private property emerges when individuals mix their labour with resources, enabling them to claim ownership. However, this theory has been criticised for excluding women, slaves, and indigenous peoples from its vision of equality. Jean-Jacques Rousseau, in Discourse on the Origins of Inequality, published in 1755, critiques the very foundations of property and social hierarchy. He famously declares, "The first man who, having enclosed a piece of ground, thought of saying, 'This is mine,' and found people naive enough to believe him, was the true founder of civil society." Rousseau distinguishes between natural equality, a state of freedom and independence in the natural world, and moral inequality, which arises from societal structures like property and class. His solution, presented in The Social Contract, is collective governance based on the general will, where equality is restored through political participation. While Rousseau's vision is inspiring, critics argue that his emphasis on collective sovereignty risks suppressing individual freedoms. Hobbes sees equality as a source of conflict, Locke as a basis for natural rights, and Rousseau as a state corrupted by social institutions. Together, they lay the groundwork for later debates about equality as both an ethical ideal and a political challenge. Now let's shift from politics to ethics and metaphysics. What makes humans equal in the first place? Is it our capacity for reason, our shared vulnerability, or is it something deeper? In Nicomachean Ethics, Aristotle argues equals should be treated equally and unequals unequally in proportion to their relevant differences. For Aristotle, equality is not about treating everyone the same, but giving individuals what they deserve based on merit and purpose. His framework justifies social hierarchies such as slavery, which he defends as natural. While his ideas on proportional equality remain influential, modern egalitarians reject his assumptions about natural hierarchies, emphasizing structural inequalities instead. In contrast, Immanuel Kant grounds equality in the inherent worth of rational beings. In his great work, Groundwork of the Metaphysics of Morals, he writes, "Every rational being exists as an end in himself, not merely as a means." For Kant, equality is universal and absolute, rooted in the shared capacity for autonomy. This idea forms the basis of modern human rights frameworks, which emphasize dignity as a universal characteristic. Yet Kant's focus on rationality excludes non-rational beings, such as animals and infants, prompting critiques from contemporary ethicists who advocate for extending moral consideration to all sentient beings. And by sentient beings, the sort of generally accepted definition is beings capable of experiencing suffering, essentially. So let's now explore these how these philosophical foundations translate into political theories, and we will do so by focusing on the work of Rawls, Nozick, and Marx. John Rawls, in A Theory of Justice, published in 1971, proposes a model of justice based on fairness. Using the veil of ignorance, he asks us to imagine designing a society without knowing our own position in it. This ensures impartiality and fairness. Rawls' two principles of justice are: 1, equal basic rights for all, and 2, the difference principle, which allows inequalities only if they benefit the least advantaged. Rawls' framework supports redistributive policies like progressive taxation, but critics like Robert Nozick argue that redistribution violates individual property rights. Karl Marx, in Critique of the Gotha Programme, dismisses liberal equality as superficial, arguing, "From each according to his ability, to each according to his needs." Marx critiques Marx critiques capitalism for perpetuating class exploitation and envisions a classless society where resources are distributed based on need. While his ideas inspire contemporary movements for economic justice, critics point to the historical monumental failures of Marxist regimes. The idea of equality has not gone unchallenged. So let's have a brief look at Nietzsche and Foucault, as well as the intersectionality perspective. Friedrich Nietzsche critiques equality as a product of resentment, or the resentment of the weak toward the strong. He argued that equality suppresses excellence and fosters mediocrity. Nietzsche's Übermensch rejects herd mentality, or what he called slave morality, and it instead creates new values that transcend egalitarian norms. In Discipline and Punish, Michel Foucault argues that equality often serves as a tool for power. Modern institutions enforce equality by normalizing behavior, creating conformity rather than liberation. Foucault shifts the focus from distributive justice, that was a mouthful, Foucault shifts the focus from distributive justice to power dynamics, revealing how equality can reinforce systemic oppression. Some feminist theorists critique traditional frameworks of equality for ignoring intersecting forms of oppression. Intersectionality reveals how race, gender, and class overlap to create unique inequalities, transforming how we think about systemic justice. In the modern era, new frameworks of equality have emerged to address evolving challenges. So there is an approach called the capabilities approach by Sen and Nussbaum, and this approach emphasizes capabilities, the actual opportunities people have to achieve well-being. Unlike Rawls, they focus on what individuals can do or be, recognizing that different people require different resources to flourish. Contemporary discussions extend equality to non-human entities in digital spaces. Peter Singer rather famously argues for animal rights, critiquing speciesism as a form of discrimination. The digital divide highlights inequalities in access to technology, raising questions about fairness in the age of AI and data-driven decision-making. So equality remains one of the most powerful and contested ideas in philosophy. From Aristotle's proportional justice to Kant's universal dignity, from Marx's revolutionary vision to the critiques of Nietzsche and Foucault, equality reflects the complexities of human existence. In the modern world, frameworks like the capabilities approach and intersectionality push us to address systemic, intersectional, and ecological inequalities. As we navigate these challenges, the debate over equality reminds us that justice is not a fixed ideal, but an evolving pursuit. So that is a look at equality, or the concept of equality, from the perspective of philosophy. And equality is something that is important to us all. It is an idea that we all hold in some capacity. And here in the West, we have attempted to build the social structures that we live in around the concept of equality. But because it's such a hotly contested idea, one that doesn't have a concrete definition or a universally agreed upon definition, the debate about equality will perhaps never end. At the very least, it won't end until we can define it in some way that cannot be refuted in any form. So until we have a solid definition, the discussions and debates will be constantly in flux. But it is nonetheless extremely interesting, and it's extremely relevant to all our lives all of the time. So it is very much worth thinking about and exploring. So I would like to know from you, what is your definition of equality? And how do you think that we as a society should act that out to actually achieve that end? I would love to know. So jump in the comments and let me know. And if you have any questions, by all means let me know. And if you think I have said something out of line or misunderstood something, then please jump in the comments and let me know, because learning is, after all, a collaborative experience. So when we all come together and pool our knowledge and share, we all get to refine our worldview and improve our knowledge. So thank you very much for watching and for listening. I do really appreciate it. If you have a moment, I would very much appreciate it if you could like the video, subscribe to the channel, and all of those things like the YouTubers ask you to do. And yeah, thank you very much for watching and listening, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Thank you.